everyone, my name is Anthony Jung and I'm the Executive Chef of Retail Dining here at the University of Massachusetts, and today I'm going to show you how to make homemade linguine with white clam sauce. Alright, so let's take a look at some of the ingredients we'll be utilizing in today's recipe. I've got some little neck clams here, quite beautiful, very striking markings that they have on them. I've got some Parmesan Reggiano cheese here. I've got some Italian parsley right there. I've got some additional chopped clams, cooked chopped clams. I've got some of that clam broth that I cooked the clams in. And we've got some garlic here. I've got a lemon, beautiful lemon there. I've got a little bit of salt, some eggs for our homemade pasta, and some bread flour. All right, so let's start on the fresh pasta dough here. So I've got a couple large eggs here, which I'm just gonna crack right in the bowl here. Another one, soaking these guys up. I've got our flour right here. Just gonna add that to the bowl as well, and just a pinch of salt here. And I'm just gonna stir this around. Now, some techniques use a well method, and you can definitely do that. You can kind of see I'm kind of making well, but you don't necessarily have to start off that way. It's all going to get incorporated, and all you have to do is just kind of keep mixing your finger here. Generally, the ratio to flour to egg generally is one extra large to large egg to 1 cup of flour. Now that ratio can change a little bit because of the size of the eggs. They're never always exactly perfect, but it's roughly around there. And if you wanted, you could fortify your pasta dough a little bit more with some egg yolk, an additional egg yolk as well. So you can see it's starting to come together. You can see it's still just a little bit dry here, which is fine. And we'll see as it comes together. I'm going to add just a smidge of water and probably just a little bit of olive oil to make sure this all comes together. All right, so you can see it looks just a little bit dry here, and that's okay. And what we're gonna do is just gonna add just a few drops of water here. That'll help really bring it together, but it's important not to add too much water because we really do want a very kind of heavy, dry dough here. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of olive oil as well to add a little bit of moisture. Just really try to bring it all together. You can see it takes just a little bit of force and strength to get this to come together, but it'll be worth it. All right, so what we're gonna do now, this is gonna take a little bit of time, is to knead the dough to really activate and work up some glutens. You can see it's a very dry dough. And that's important is because we're gonna add all that moisture when we're actually boiling it. So you definitely wanna work it really good. It's gonna take about 10 minutes or so. You can also use a stand mixer or a KitchenAid or what have you. So you don't necessarily have to get a workout making this dough. You can see it's starting to come together fairly nice here. And what we're gonna look for is a very nice smooth texture with a very dense feeling. And then we'll know that we really worked up the gluten, so when we're cooking this. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes, and you can see our dough is fairly smooth, and it really is very dense. All right, so just gonna grab some plastic wrap. Okay, and I'm just gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna let it rest for about 10 minutes. All right, so let's start on just a little bit of prep work here. And for this dish, which is really great, there isn't a lot to do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to cut this lemon in half. All right, easy enough, and we'll squeeze that into our pasta sauce here. I've got some garlic in a good amount. One of the things about Italian cooking, at times, sometimes it's just very simple ingredients executed minimally, but with great ingredients. So we've got some really great garlic here. Just add those there. To the next one. You can see I'm not chopping them. Just giving them just a little tear. All right, just a easy little crush, so to speak. So very rustic, very natural. Parsley. And all we're going to do is just give this the lightest chop. Okay. It doesn't have to be chopped all the way very fine. You know, honestly, it could have been torn and then just thrown into the pasta as well. So I'm just giving this just roughest of a chop here. All right. All right, so for the next step here, you can see that I've unwrapped the dough here, and I've cut it into quarters. I've also got a little bit of flour here for dusting, and I've got my stand mixer with a pasta sheeter here. Of course, you could also use a rolling pin and a knife to cut the pasta, but I'm going to show you this method here. All right, so it's going to take the dough, and it's going to form it into a disc. Like so. I'm just going to add just a little bit of flour. Okay. And once I turn on the pasta machine, there will be no audio. So here we go. All right, so here's our pasta sheet, and what I've done is I started on the 0 setting and put it in about 3 to 4 times, folding it over, and then I went through each one of the settings twice, all the way up to number 5. I've got this really beautiful pasta sheet here. So I'm gonna put this down and I'm gonna finish the rest, and then I'll show you the next step. All right. right, so what I've done is just trimmed the ends of our pasta sheets here. Okay, so we'll just square it off. What I'm going to do is turn on our stand mixer again. However, I did change out the sheeter for a fettuccine cutter. So it's going to cut our pasta. You could also do this with a knife. You would just roll or fold over your pasta like so, and then just cut it into your strips there. But since I have this, I'm going to show you this method. So here we go. And again, there'll be no audio because all right, so that was easy work, and there's our pasta. All right, so we're gonna let our pasta just rest for just a little bit here, and that gives us the perfect amount of time to start our sauce here. So I just brought over the ingredients over to the stove here, and I've also got some butter that I'll finish the sauce with. I've got my pot of boiling water, or almost boiling. It's coming up to a boil now. I've got my olive oil and a little bit of white wine and my trusty pepper mill and a little bit of salt there. So let's start the sweat. And what we're going to do is just turn up the stove. We're going to go to medium, turn all 3 zones on, and I'm going to add some really good olive oil and the garlic. And what we're going to do is just sweat this for a couple of minutes until it's really, really fragrant. All right, so our garlic is looking pretty fragrant there. And what we're going to do is to add some white wine. And you want to be careful. At this stage, because of as alcohol evaporates, it can be very flammable, so you just have to be very, very careful, especially over a open stove. And then what we're going to do is we're going to let this reduce down to a sec, which means almost dry in French, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, so you can see that the wine has really, really reduced down. Okay. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to add some of that clam juice to our pan here. And I'm going to add our clams because they take the longest to cook here. Okay. I'm going to return this to a boil. I'm going to cover it, and then once they open, I'll show you the next step. All right, so it's been a few minutes. Let's check in on our clams. Oh, perfect. All right, so they've opened, which means that they're done. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook this down just for a little bit longer, just so we can reduce that broth there, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, so that broth is reducing fairly well here. Okay, I'm just going to lower the heat just a little bit. And then I'll show you what I've done is brought over the pasta, and what I did was I just dusted it with just a little bit of flour so it wouldn't stick. I've got all the other ingredients over here as well, and let's add our chopped clams now. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to add the pasta to the water now, and really it only takes about 30 seconds to a minute to boil here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add it to our saucepan there, along with some cheese and the last little garnishes here. Okay, so I'll let this go for about a minute or so, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, so let me grab a pair of tongs. Just toss this around just a little bit here, just to make sure that they don't stick. So you can see that they're floating. So pretty much once they come up you want to wait about 30 seconds or so, and then we'll add it. So let me put this down here. And slide this over. I'm just going to add the pasta now. You can see we have really, really nice long strands here. There we go. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the starchy water. This is going to help thicken our sauce here. Okay. And let's add some olive oil. Some really great Italian olive oil here. Some black pepper. Big fan of freshly cracked pepper. Add a little bit of lemon here. Add some parsley. And we're going to grate some Reggiano real quick here. And this will help thicken the sauce as well, but I'm add a certain amount of savoriness to the dish. Let's turn off that stove over there. Put this at the top. Alright, and let's add our butter. I'll add some richness. Now you can, of course, finish this with a little bit of cream, if you so desire. I prefer mine with just a little bit of butter. Let's add a little bit more parsley to the top here. A little bit of Reggiano cheese. All right, so let's bring our pasta over to our counter here. Brought over some Parmesan and some lemon as well. We'll finish it off with some olive oil and some black pepper. So let's get this beautiful looking pasta into our bowl here. You can see how long these strands of pasta is, and that's really desirable. It's mainly preference for me because I like to take my fork and really get it onto that pasta onto my fork, and it's just a little bit easier with longer pasta. All right, some of that great broth in here as well. A couple more chopped clams there. Just hit it with just a little bit more black pepper. Some more olive oil. A bit more parsley here. A little bit more cheese. Lastly, we'll just finish it off with just a little bit more lemon. Big fan of the squeeze of lemon at the end. So there you have it. We've got our linguine with clam sauce with homemade linguine. So hopefully you found this educational and that you'll try this recipe at home. And again, I'd like to thank our partners, our Wicked Fish in Massachusetts Marine Fisheries, for their donation in their partnership with UMass Dining.